let's connect straight to both of our you standing by to take us through, bring us to speed with the update at the trade fair.
Well, thank you so much, Frank. Of course, we've come to the end, technically speaking, the second day of the Intra-Africa Trade Fair. What we're expecting this evening at about 7:30 here in Algiers is a festival tonight of music and entertainment that will be on. My colleague Shaitan Atigari and others are covering that for the Arise News. But just to bring the formal business in terms of the knowledge session to an end, we've had the last session just a few minutes ago that focused a little bit more on Africa's industrialization using the platform of the Arise IIP that is working with the Afrexim Bank for multi-billion US dollars in investment to set up special economic zones across the continent. So that was the last session that we had before we're connecting to you in Abuja for this live crossing into the Arise Exchange. But let me just bring on my guest, who is one of the Nigerian women who are working really hard in the oil and gas or the hydrocarbon sector. She's part of the African women in the energy sector. She's also making fresh investments through the Agri Group into the Agro-allied industrialization sector in Nigeria. So let me introduce my guest, Amina Maina, who is the Executive Chairperson. Good evening, madam. It's good to have you here at the Intra-Africa Trade Fair.
Good evening, my pleasure, and happy to be here.
Thank you very much. Just 2 days into the event, give me your sense of how this setup has been for the 2025 edition.
Well, I think I can actually say that Afrexim, as usual, has delivered. I mean, every year we attend the trade fair, it gets better. This year, we've seen everyone talk about focusing on Africa. So basically, Africa for Africa. And I don't think there's a better time for us to start to talk about how we can help ourselves as a people. And we just see all that's going on in the world. So we know it's time to look inwards.
In terms of setting up and in terms of investments in Africa, let's sit down to business. Let's start from the oil and gas, hydrocarbon, and I'm sure that's one sector across Africa that there are new discoveries across Africa. Nigeria wants further investment. We passed the PIB, the PIA Act that is catalyzing further investment into Nigeria, Angola, Senegal, and others are doing hydrocarbon. Give me what your understanding is of the investment we need in Africa for the oil and gas sector. We still need to drill for hydrocarbon. We need energy.
Yeah, so I mean, the first thing is, I think refining was a major issue, but with the oncoming of the Dangote refinery, part of that problem has been solved. One of the main issues we had in Nigeria was that of importation of petroleum products. Today, with the refinery, at least that has been managed significantly. The amounts that we used to spend to import, just the FX we needed, as you know, was enormous. Today, we're starting to see refining capacity within Africa. So yes, we have the Dangote refinery, but we have many other refineries that are upcoming. So in terms of self-reliance on refining, it helps. And I think we all know that once you're able to process your raw materials within the areas which you live, you get to save a lot. So that's kind of a no-brainer for all of us to say we need more refining, and at least we're dealing with that. In terms of investments in the upstream, we know that there was a bit of a lag, so to say, in terms of financing for discovery. But with the incoming administration of Donald Trump, when he said everybody drill, we can see things have changed.
Exactly.
We're starting to find funds that at least would be able to unlock some of those reserves that we hold within Africa. And hopefully we'll see a lot of foreign investments coming in terms of funding new discoveries. And even with what we're seeing in Nigeria, for example, locally, where we now even have local partners coming together and on their way to becoming IOCs. We know about Seplat, Renaissance, and all the others. So I'm sure a lot more will come into play as well.
And Agri Group is joining that group.
Yes, we
isn't
are.
It?
We are.
Tell me about your investments in the upstream sector.
So in the last bid round, the marginal field bid round, we were lucky to be one of those who were awarded a marginal field. And today I can say thank God and proudly we have just completed our re-entry. So we have also joined the group of people in Upstream who are now producing oil.
In terms of investment size, what are you looking at in that field?
To be honest, it was a lot. I think we have about 63 million barrels, something like that, in terms of reserves on the oil side. But we also have some gas. So we're looking at an investment that is going to take us into producing both oil and gas. It's significant, but I think we'll be able to do it with people like Afrexin because they've been quite supportive, I have to say, of everything that we've done. From the trading side to now the upstream, they've held our hands. And it's kind of the things we want to see where we're seeing African finance corporations stepping up to fund a lot of the transactions that we do.
In terms of funding, so you talk about Afrexim Bank, the Africa Finance Corporation.
Yeah.
Are you looking at to see some local banks being part of the further investment that local oil companies need to invest in the local market, putting our money where our business really is and not depending on international banks and the IOCs?
Yeah, to be honest, the local banks are doing quite a bit as well. For example, we're also funded by Access Bank, by Fidelity Bank, by FCMB. So we do also have local banks financing us, not just the foreign banks. But the reality is that when you make these kinds of investments, you have to do a blend because of cost. But the local banks are definitely stepping up as well.
Well, what more would you like to see in terms of value chain within the African oil and gas industry? And you talk about refining, which Afrexim Bank is supporting, is looking at the Gulf of Guinea as a major hub for refineries across Africa. And Dangote refineries is a big boy playing in that particular corridor. Are you looking to see more local content?
On the refining side?
Yes.
Yeah, but I think in terms of capacity, we're starting to see that we maybe even have enough since we now are able to export, which we didn't do before. I mean, we used to be a net importer. Now we're exporting. Dangote is exporting to the US, to Europe, to everywhere. And we know that there are other refineries that are coming up within Africa as well. Some still in the pipeline, but also even refineries that were owned by governments are now going through turnaround maintenance. So I think in terms of capacity, we need to be careful not to overinvest in refining, and then we find ourselves in the situation where we now have kind of a glut, and we're now struggling with what to do with that.
To scale back.
Yeah.
So we've done oil and gas, 65th independence of Nigeria in a couple of weeks now on October the 1st. So we begin to see how we're spending our investment money into other sectors, non-oil sector, by the way, which is very, very key for intra-Africa trade. And that's where you're talking to me earlier about the investment you're making in Agro-allied. Talk more to me about that.
Okay, so for us at IRI Group, what we decided was we know that agriculture is probably going to surpass oil soon. Everybody needs to eat. Everybody, irrespective of who you are, where you're from, you have to eat. But we also need to become self-sufficient in food in Nigeria. And for us to be able to do that, we have to make the right investment. So for us as a strategy, what we decided was a lot of the funds that will come to us from oil and gas, we will now move into the agribusiness. In the agribusiness, as it stands today, we have a 500-hectare farmland. We're acquiring another 2,000. But the aim for us is more the processing, because we find that what really goes on in Africa is we do have crops, but all of the crops that we produce are exported and then brought back to us as finished goods. And that is where the gap is. And for us, that is really where we want to focus and be able to produce world-class products that we can export from Nigeria. So Nigeria doesn't just depend on oil, but agriculture is something that I really think could surpass oil.
So technically speaking, are you talking about not just investment, but if there are revenue income from the upstream, midstream sector that could go into agro-allied processing? So we have institutions such as the AFDB working with about 2 dozen Nigerian state governments for special agro-processing zone. They've onboarded Kaduna State for the north. They've done in Osun State also for southwest. So you're looking to see to plug the Eri Group into some of these investments on a bigger scale, and without investment not only from IFDB, from Islamic Development Bank of Saudi Arabia as well into Nigeria?
Yeah. I mean, definitely we want to key into that, right? The whole world today, whatever business you're doing, is all about collaboration. So it's one thing for us to have the farmland, to say we want to do the processing, but for that to become a reality, you need equipment, you need technology, you need the IoT of farming, so it's basically Internet of Things. You need technology to be able to scale up. For you to reach, at least for us, where we want to go, we know that we're going to have to partner with some of these funding agencies, but more than just the financing, it's also the technology. And as you know, again, I think one major issue in Nigeria when it comes to agriculture is also security. Once we're able to tackle that, I don't think there's any limitation, really.
I'm very happy you brought up the issue of insecurity. Do you think commercial scale farming, like Eri Group is going into, do you think that could be a solution in the short to medium term to secure hectares and hectares and hectares and thousands of hectares of land into agriculture, in mechanized farming, tech-based agriculture, to support Nigeria, bring down food inflation, and be able to push back some of the insecurity issues we have across the country?
Oh, I definitely think so. I mean, without a doubt. I think that once the issue of security, as you know, is really linked to hunger, to poverty, to just wanting a better life. Now, if there's a way or a system by which farming takes care of that, if you have tons and tons of land and you're able to kind of act as an aggregator, but also give the farmers the leeway to do the farming, you know, they will protect the environment because they want to make sure that their lives are better. They want to make sure that whatever seeds you give to them, they plant and they're able to harvest them, knowing fully well that once the harvest is done, they get revenues coming to them and it improves their lives. That takes care of a lot of security issues. I don't think where we are today, we can deal with the security issues the usual way. We're going to have to think outside the box. We're going to have to use the local farmers to secure their areas. I mean, in the past, growing up, anybody who came into an environment where you were, you knew who the stranger was. Everybody knew who the stranger was. So we need to go back to that, you know, village mentality, for lack of a better word.
A communal form of doing things.
We have to. But
you think farming cooperatives, farmers union, the what you call the agrarian farming still have a place despite deep pockets, $1 million investors like your group in agro sector?
Without a doubt.
The small scale farmers.
Yes, because we had schemes in Nigeria, as you know, in the past. The schemes themselves were not bad, the anchor borrower scheme and all the rest. Usually the problem is with the implementation, right? But the idea, the scheme itself was not bad. And we saw that happen. When it started, we saw farmers' lives change. And then, you know, things happened and it just didn't continue. But I don't see any reason why some of these schemes cannot work. For us, if we make the investment, we're going to have the farmers in clusters. That way we're able to manage them, we're able to work with them. Because if we don't educate our people on the benefits of these things, we will just continue to lose value and re-import what we have sent out at 4 or 5 times the price at which we should be buying things.
Just to summarize, as far as this Iatf is concerned, Nigeria is hosting the 2027 edition. I'm sure you're smiling all over.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a happy moment for Nigeria.
Yeah.
What's your take on that? In 2 years' time, we will be standing on Nigerian soil.
It's about time, right? Within Africa, I mean, who will not talk about Nigeria when you talk about businesses? So it's about time. It's good that the Iatf is coming to Nigeria. It's without, you know, rubbing off any other African country, it's coming home, so to say, you know. But it's a long time coming, honestly. The amount of businesses, just the sheer scale of Nigeria, I think we deserve to host it.
We deserve it. We can handle it.
We can. We're
it's
capable.
Nice speaking with you. Thank you so much. the executive chairperson at Eri Group here at the Inter-Africa Trade Fair 2025. in Algiers. And of course, it's going to be additional couple of days down the line. Remember, tomorrow is the start of the weekend today into Sunday. So we've got to have the Connex. We're going to have a whole lot more knowledge session coming up that myself and my colleague Seyiton Atigarin will be covering here. So everyone just stay tuned. We've got a whole lot to cover over the next couple of days until the middle of next week. But for now, I'm handing over to you for the rest of the Arise Exchange at the Abuja studios. Frank.
Boston, just before I let you go, I just want us to get a few highlights of today's event. I mean, listen to you speaking to your guests there, but is there two, like I said, of the Inter-African Trade Fair, with speeches from political and business leaders emphasizing specifically on Africa's economic transformation. Now, from your perspective, I mean, what are the key highlights from today's section, and what stood out for you specifically?
Yeah, we've had a couple of things. So let me start from the Nigerian perspective. We've got a deal on the table today. Nigeria's Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, Dr. Jumoke Oduwole, was there to formally present that new report on AFCFTA implementation for Nigeria, a 5-year report. That was done a short while ago, about an hour or so ago, here at the SafeX venue. Then, of course, you've got Nigeria's commodity exchange, which is based in Abuja, signing a deal with a company out of Dubai to support Nigeria's agro-processing. Part of what Amina Mena was speaking to me earlier about agro-processing in Africa. So that's one of the things that the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is also keen about. Remember, he spoke some time ago about commodity exchanges in Nigeria and why we need the exchange commodities board and all of that. So that's very important if we're going to deal with food insecurity, if we are going to be part of intra-Africa trade. So we've got that on the table today. What else did we have? We've got that session of the Africa Chairperson on Trade being discussed today. From the start of the morning, what we've got were a couple of knowledge sessions on infrastructure. What's the scale of infrastructure that we need on the continent to support intra-Africa trade? You can't do it without infrastructure. We need electricity, we need road, we need rail, we need air connectivity across the continent, we need the waterways. All of this will have to come together in terms of investment. Let me move back a bit towards the afternoon and the morning when we talk about the customs and, of course, why we need exporters within the scheme. Why is this important in terms of customs protocol? Making sure that all the borders are open for business and some of the nuances that you have from one country to the other, 54 countries, with so many corridors around the continent. All of this will have to move down in terms of trade barriers. But let me just tell you for just a second what Wamkele Mene said this morning on a panel before Nigeria's Custom Comptroller General, Bashir Adeniyi, spoke. And he says, intra-Africa trade isn't just about the numbers. Yeah, we can do $200 billion deal, but it has to impact people on the ground, youth, women, and everyone that will have to make life better on the continent. So we can talk about the numbers in US dollar terms, but we also need to ensure that we create jobs, we create value, the value chain has to be there, we have to industrialize. About an hour or two ago, we had an interview here with Engineer Mansour Ahmed, who is the advisor to Aliko Dangote, the president and CEO of the industry group. And he spoke to us about that deal with Ethiopia, $2.5 billion in terms of fertilizers. He also wants to see that there will be further intra-African investment coming together. So as Aliko, the Dangote group is investing in other African countries. There should also be other investment by other billionaires and others, millionaires on the continent, to ensure that we have this spread of investments on the continent and the Africa can work together to create a value chain for economic and industrial manufacturing moving forward. Frank, back to you.
Well, I think we'll just have to let you go. Thank you so much, Bosin. Of course, I'm excited that quite a lot of African countries are taking sizable, chunk of investment deals from this 2025 international trade fair. Well, please keep safe and keep track of the money.
Thank you so much. We track it. We trade. Thank you, Frank.
Thank you.